G for guest workers, guest worker visas. I'm only going to talk about the two most popular ones briefly. You heard the last time in 2006 and 2007, the McCain-Kennedy Senate bill included another guest worker program. And we were saying then, we don't need another guest worker program. We have guest worker programs, and they work when the employers use them. The problem is they don't want to use them because they don't want to abide by our laws. They don't want to pay the taxes. It's much cheaper for a business to ignore that and just hire illegal immigrant labor. The H-2A is the seasonal agricultural workers. Those are the people that come in on they get a temporary visa to come for a season and pick tomatoes and go back. That's a typical example. H-2B are temporary seasonal workers. That could be landscapers and maybe at a hotel that work for the season and then they go back. But when you hear Senator Dianne Feinstein saying that we should have another agricultural jobs guest worker program, it is really just absurd, because only 4% of illegal immigrants work in the agricultural industry, and farmers don't need to rely on the illegal immigrant workers because there is an unlimited supply of legal agricultural workers if they just would go through the H-2A program. H is for Homeland Security. 11 days after September 11th, President Bush announced that he'd create this office in the White House. And our very own former Governor Tom Ridge was the first director. In 2002, Dick Armey introduced President Bush's legislation to create the DHS, and I didn't know that, so Dick Armey was part of that. In Homeland Security, ICE, you'll hear ICE, that means Immigration and Customs Enforcement. That is the body that enforces our laws regarding immigration. The USCIS is the Citizenship and Immigration Service. That is the agency that processes the applications for visas and citizenship and processing the paperwork. The USCEP is the Border Patrol, Border Enforcement, and Customs Inspections. Janet Napolitano, she's our head of Homeland Security. This was the most flattering picture I could find. Honestly. She is the former governor of the state of Arizona, and she is the head of the Department of Homeland Security, so she is in charge of ICE, the Citizenship Services, and the Border Patrol. I is for illegal alien. Alien means any person not a citizen or national of the United States. An illegal alien commonly refers to any person who's entered the U.S. without authorization or who has overstayed a visa. It is not a derogatory term. It is not a racist term. Alien comes from federal immigration law. I is for ICE. Again, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and ICE's mission is to protect national security, public safety, the integrity of the U.S. borders, and the enforcement of our federal laws governing border control, customs trade, and immigration. ICE has a tip line, which I thought you might be interested in. To report suspicious immigration activity, they actually have an 800 number. You can call in anonymously, but realize that this is a federal law enforcement agency. J is for John Morton. He's the current Assistant Secretary, or the head of ICE. And remember, ICE is the enforcement branch of the Department of Homeland Security. And his quote, "I don't think the Arizona law or laws like it are the solution," he said recently to the Chicago Tribune editorial board. He also said Arizona's new law targeting illegal immigration is not good government. And worse, he said, remember, he's the top chief law enforcement officer of Immigration and Customs Enforcement. He said ICE will not necessarily process those illegal immigrants that are referred to them by Arizona officials. Jay, on the opposite end of the scale, sorry about that. K is for Chris Kobach. He was the former chief counsel to Attorney General John Ashcroft. He was an advisor on immigration and border security. He created a national program to register and fingerprint high-risk visitors to the U.S. He also is the architect of Arizona's Senate Bill 1070, signed into law by Governor Jan Brewer. He also is the lead attorney representing the city of Hazleton, Pennsylvania in the suit filed by ACLU. Also represents the U.S. citizen students fighting in-state tuition for illegal aliens in California and Kansas. I have one more note about the lawsuit with the city of Hazleton. There was many different organizations, et cetera, that filed Friends of the Court brief, what we call amicus briefs. One of the law firms that was involved in the lawsuit was Cozen O'Connor, a former employer of Congressman Patrick Murphy and former employer of his wife. K is also for Congressman Steve King. He recently introduced the Illegal Deduction Elimination Act idea. I love the acronyms. I don't know how they come up with them. They are pretty pithy. This would prevent employers from deducting wages for illegal workers and instead punishes them with a tax liability. And so it's a really good idea. Congressman Steve King is the ranking member of the House Judiciary Subcommittee on Immigration. He has been a longtime champion for comprehensive immigration enforcement. He's also the member of the Reclaim Americans Jobs Caucus, and tomorrow the subcommittee is meeting in Washington in the morning. Unfortunately, the balance of that subcommittee is open borders supporters, and we are going to be parading in a lot of people to give testimony only on one side. They didn't invite anyone from the other side, so we're eager to hear what happens tomorrow morning. L is for A Line in the Sand, and I'd like you to write this down. A Line in the Sand is a report that was issued, a report and investigation conducted by Congressman Michael McCall from Texas in 2006. This report was really an incredible read. It's 39 pages, and it talks about all the findings of what they found at the southern border. The breadth and sophistication of the cartel and the criminal organizations, and also the direct links to terror. Drug trafficking organizations and human smuggling networks are proliferating and strengthening their control of key corridors along our nation's southwest border. Think about that. This was in 2005 and 2006. They were already saying that these criminal organizations, they're sectors of our border where they have control. We don't have control, they do. In 2005, the Border Patrol apprehended 1.2 million illegal aliens. 165 of those were OTMs. Other than Mexicans, 650 were from special interest countries. You can find this at mccall.house.gov. It's called A Line in the Sand. You can see this map. These are the cartel territories and drug routes. L is for Lou Barletta, the mayor of Hazleton, Pennsylvania. He enacted the Illegal Immigration Relief Act in response to a spike of violent crime and costs to the city of Hazleton as a direct result of the influx of illegal aliens in his town. The IIRA imposed fines on landlords who rented to illegal immigrants and denied business permits to companies that employed them. Pretty much, that's all it was. And it required tenants to register with City Hall and pay for a rental permit. Of course, the ACLU, the PERLDEP is the Puerto Rican Legal Defense Fund, and Cozen O'Connor filed suit against Lou Barletta and the city of Hazleton. Right now, the first round of the litigation, they ruled against the city of Hazleton. It's been on appeal, waiting decision for 2 years. M is for the Mexican matricula card, also known as the matricula card or the matricula consular card. This is an identification that was pretty much created and used by the Mexican government for Mexican nationals that are living here illegally, undocumented in the United States. The problem was that since you don't have any documents, you don't have a credit history, they were having trouble buying cars or doing anything that any of us could normally do because we have driver's license, we have social security cards. So the Mexican government decided to aggressively market with their 48 Mexican consulates this Mexican consular card. This, interestingly, this card is not accepted or widely accepted in Mexico. The Mexican matricula card allows illegal aliens to open up bank accounts, pay mortgages, driver's licenses, credit cards, Banks even lowered their lending standards and allowed illegal immigrants to get mortgage loans. No documentation, no Social Security required, no driver's license required. You just needed your handy-dandy matricular card. Again, Mexican banks do not accept matricular cards. The FBI had a hearing, the Senate Judiciary Committee had a hearing regarding the dangers and threats posed by the widespread use in the United States of matricular consular cards. The FBI considers matricular consular cards a threat to our national security because it's not a secure document. Mexico does not authenticate the documents that are used to get that identification card, and they have no computerized data system to go back and check anything that you're bringing in. In fact, some people that I know and Daryl know, we know some of the members of the 9/11 families for Secure America actually went to a Mexican consulate and got a matricular card. Even if you don't have any proof of anything, they will just, you pay the fee and you get your card, you get your picture taken. That is worth nothing. However, at the time when these first started being used and aggressively marketed, there were states in this nation that were issuing driver's licenses to illegal immigrants. They were not checking for legal residency. You showed up with your consular card and you could obtain a driver's license. And again, on the 19 hijackers in 9/11, every single one of them gamed our immigration system through the use of forged documents, identity theft, etc. That is why this poses a danger. N is for the DHS Secretary Napolitano. Here's her famous quote from only 2 months ago. The U.S. Southwest border is as secure now as it's ever been. She is right. Not much has changed.
That's right.
N is for national security begins at home. Pennsylvania legislation introduced by Representative Daryl. It restricts benefits, mandates E-Verify, has law enforcement provisions, and effective penalties. N is for Numbers USA. This is one other wonderful organization. It really was one of the first organizations out there before there were Tea Parties, I heard, that really did phenomenal networking and social media marketing to get activists to call and write their local elected officials regarding pending immigration bills. In 2007, when we were opposing the McCain-Kennedy-Specter amnesty bill, it was the first time ever in history that the Senate lines got shut down, the phone lines, and it was because of so many people calling. It was because so many people called, and it was the first time that ever happened. My phone bill can attest to the fact that I participated in that. Numbers USA says the chief difficulties that America faces because of current immigration are not triggered by who the immigrants are, but how many they are. And hence, that's why it's called Numbers USA. I've had the pleasure and distinct honor of meeting and working together with Roy Beck and his organization. Their government relations gal, Chad McDonald. They are wonderful, wonderful, knowledgeable people, and they are willing to help the grassroots. O is for OTM, not ATM, OTM. This means other than Mexican, and it is an official term used by the United States Customs and Border Patrol to describe persons apprehended at the border from nations other than Mexico. In September 2005, close to 4,000 non-Mexican OTMs were turned over to ICE for detention under expedited removal. Thus far, close to 3,000 of them have been removed from the country. Persons from Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Lebanon, Yemen, Sudan, Egypt, Somalia, and China have been apprehended at our southern border. And really, it makes sense. You can imagine if poor peasants from Central and South America can make their way through the southern border, what makes anyone think that well-financed, very intelligent, highly networked individuals from terror-sponsoring nations can't do the same? And they are doing it.